All right, let's dive into Onyxcoin, or XCN. This crypto is making waves in DeFi, and we're here to break it all down. We've got market predictions, analyses, even guides on getting your hands on some XCN.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one, especially if you're into crypto going beyond just digital cash.
Okay, so first things first, what is Onyxcoin? Why is everyone talking about it?
Well, XCN is both a utility token and a governance token for the Onyx Protocol. It runs on Ethereum, so it's not trying to replace it. More like using what Ethereum can do to create a whole new financial system.
Gotcha. So this Onyx Protocol, what's the big deal? I keep seeing NFT collateral everywhere, and that sounds kind of crazy.
It is pretty cutting edge, yeah. It's like other DeFi platforms, lets you lend and borrow digital assets, but peer-to-peer. But the big difference is you can use NFTs as collateral for loans.
Hold on, wait. So I could actually use, like, my Bored Ape as collateral?
You could. Of course, there are systems in place to figure out how much the NFT is worth and, to manage the risk if the price goes down. It's not just a free-for-all, but it definitely opens up a lot of possibilities.
And that's where the whole smart contract thing comes in, right? To automate all that?
Exactly. Smart contracts are like the foundation of this whole thing. They handle the loan terms, make sure the collateral's managed properly, but the whole process is transparent and automatic.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've got NFTs, lending, borrowing. But where does this governance token part come in? What's in it for someone who actually owns XCN?
Think of it like voting rights in a company. XCN holders, through this thing called the Onyx DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, they get to vote on stuff that shapes the future of the Onyx Protocol.
So it's not just about buying low and selling high, it's about actually having a say in how this whole thing develops. That's pretty cool.
Exactly. And the more XCN you have, the more voting power you get. It encourages people to be involved for the long haul. It gives them a real stake in its success.
I can see how that would attract a different kind of investor, for sure. Someone who actually believes in this whole decentralized finance thing.
Absolutely. And that long-term vision is also supported by the staking mechanism.
Right. Staking. Another one of those crypto things I'm still wrapping my head around. So it's not just about holding on to the token, right?
Right. When you stake your XCN, you're locking it up for a while. Help secure the network, make sure transactions are valid, and in return, you get rewards, kind of like interest.
So you can earn more XCN without doing anything, and you're helping the system stay stable. It's like being a shareholder and a security guard all at once.
Yeah, something like that. And the rewards can be pretty decent, which is why more people are getting into staking.
Okay, so XCN has this interesting utility and governance thing going on. Makes it different from a lot of other cryptos out there. But let's talk about the elephant in the room. The market. How has XCN actually been performing?
Well, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, like most cryptos. One source says it's down almost 99% from its all-time high.
Ouch, that's a big drop. Definitely shows how volatile crypto can be. But wait, I'm also seeing it's gone up over 144% in the last 24 hours alone. What's going on there?
That's crypto for you. Unpredictable. Especially for a token with a lower market cap like XCN, it's sitting around $69 million right now, which means it's way more sensitive to, changes in sentiment compared to, say, Bitcoin or Ethereum.
So low market cap, it's a double-edged sword, huh? High risk, high reward. But how does XCN's market cap compare to others in its space? Does that make it more appealing to certain types of investors?
That's a really good question, and one people don't think about enough. Institutional investors, for example, might see this as a chance for big returns. We've seen coins with similar market caps explode when they get more popular.
So while the volatility is scary, it could also mean big potential, especially if Onyx Protocol takes off and gets more users.
Exactly. It's all about weighing the risk and reward and understanding what could affect XCN's price going forward.
Okay, so speaking of risk, what are some things people should know about investing in XCN specifically, besides the whole market volatility thing, of course?
Well, it's important to remember that XCN is tied to how well Onyx Protocol does. If people don't use the protocol or if there are technical problems, that'll directly affect the price.
So it's not just betting on the token, it's about the whole ecosystem around it.
Right. Investors need to do their homework on both XCN and Onyx Protocol. Look into the team, the technology, the whole plan for the project.
And that's where our pile of research comes in handy. We've got in-depth stuff that can help people really get what Onyx Protocol is all about.
Exactly. It's about making informed decisions, not just following the hype.
All right, we've covered a lot of ground already. What XCN is, the market, potential risks. But before we move on, what's the one thing that really stands out to you about Onyxcoin?
For me, it's that mix of governance rights and using NFTs as collateral. That's something we haven't really seen before. Shows the team behind Onyxcoin is thinking differently, pushing the limits of DeFi.
Yeah, definitely pushing the envelope. Now let's look at what you can actually do with XCN, not just trading it. What are the use cases?
Well, XCN is designed to be a functional token within the Onyx Protocol, right? So one of the main uses is naturally participating in that peer-to-peer lending and borrowing system.
Right, cutting out the middleman, the banks. That's a big part of why decentralized finance is so appealing, right?
Absolutely. And because it's all on the Ethereum blockchain, those transactions are usually faster and more transparent than traditional methods.
Like sending an email instead of a letter, way faster. But how do NFTs as collateral actually work? What are the benefits and risks?
Well, it depends on the platform and the loan terms. But usually, they want NFTs that have proven value, are easy to trade, like those from well-known collections or with a history of sales.
So my random doodle probably won't cut it, but maybe a CryptoPunk would. What about the risks? What if my NFT loses value while I have a loan?
Now, that's where things get interesting. Onyx Protocol has ways to deal with that risk. For example, they might ask for more collateral for riskier NFTs. So you'd need to put up more NFTs to get the loan. Or they have automatic systems that sell your collateral if the value drops too much.
So there are some safety nets, but it's still new territory, definitely some risks there. But let's not forget about those other uses for XCN. We mentioned earlier that holders get discounts on chain.com products.
Yeah, that's a big part of XCN's utility. It's not just for speculation. It actually has uses in the real world.
It's like a VIP membership card. But what exactly is chain.com? What kind of discounts are we talking about?
Chain.com provides blockchain infrastructure and services, mainly for businesses and developers. They have analytics tools, custody solutions, all sorts of stuff. And XCN holders get discounts depending on how much they hold.
So XCN could go up in value and you get perks in this whole ecosystem. Adds another layer of appeal for investors who want more than just speculation.
Definitely. It shows XCN is part of a bigger network, not just a standalone token. And that could really contribute to its long-term value.
And don't forget about staking, which we talked about earlier. That's another way to use XCN, right?
Absolutely. Staking is more than just holding on to it. You're actively involved in keeping the network secure and getting rewarded for it.
It's like we said, being a shareholder and a security guard. Multitasking tokens. Okay, so lending, borrowing, discounts, staking. XCN is like a Swiss Army knife in this ecosystem. But with all these potential upsides, we gotta circle back to those investment considerations. What should people keep in mind before jumping into XCN?
Well, we already talked about how volatile the crypto market is, and that's especially true for XCN.
Yeah, that 98% drop is a reminder that things can change fast. Anything else? Any red flags to watch out for?
One crucial thing is the whole regulatory landscape. Crypto is still new, and the rules are constantly changing. Governments are still trying to figure out how to deal with cryptocurrencies, and any big changes in regulations could affect the whole market.
So it's not just about the tech, it's about the legal and political stuff too.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to stay up to date on regulations and understand how they could affect your XCN holdings.
Great point. Not a set it and forget it investment. You gotta stay engaged.
What about buying and selling strategies? The market's volatile, but are there any approaches that make sense for XCN?
That's where things get tricky. Because XCN is so connected to Onyx Protocol, its price isn't just about market sentiment. It's also about how much the protocol is being used and developed.
So it's almost like investing in a startup, where the value depends on how the company does.
Exactly. So you need to look beyond charts and patterns and focus on the fundamentals of Onyx Protocol. Are they hitting their goals, getting new users, expanding their services? Those things can affect XCN's long-term value.
Okay, so it's not just about timing the market or chasing hype. It's about understanding what the token and the ecosystem are really worth. Exactly. And that's what makes XCN such an interesting investment. It's not just speculation. It's about being part of a movement that's changing finance and creating new possibilities.
Love that. Investing in the future of finance itself. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before we dive into what the future might hold for XCN, let's take a quick break. Then we'll come back and explore what's next for this unique and ambitious project.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Onyxcoin. Before the break, we were talking about investing in XCN and how it needs a different approach.
You're right. It's not just about looking at charts and hoping for the best. There's this whole ecosystem, and honestly, it's a lot to take in.
It is, and that leads us to another important thing about Onyxcoin. It's tokenomics. We need to understand how these tokens are distributed, how they're managed, to really get a sense of its potential.
Tokenomics, right. Another one of those crypto terms that can be a bit much. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. It's basically about the economics of a cryptocurrency. How many tokens there are, how they're spread out, how they're created and destroyed, and all the things that affect their value.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about the forces that drive the price up or down.
Yeah.
It's a potential for growth, right?
Exactly. Understanding a token's tokenomics is crucial for making good investment decisions. So let's take a look at Onyxcoin's tokenomics and see what we can learn from our research.
Sounds good. What do our sources say about how XCN is distributed and managed?
Well, we know Onyxcoin started with 100 billion tokens, but they've been doing these token burn events to reduce that number, down to about 48.47 billion.
Okay, so they're shrinking the supply on purpose. What's the thinking there?
Token burning is pretty common in crypto. It's usually done to make the tokens more scarce, which could increase the value of the ones left, like a company buying back its own stock to reduce the number of shares out there, and hopefully boost the price per share.
So less supply, more demand, higher price for XCN. Got it. But what about the tokens that are already out there, the ones people are trading? How are those distributed?
Right now, there are about 30.79 billion XCN in circulation. That's a little over 63% of the total supply actively traded on the market. The rest is divided like this. About 28% is held by the company, about 19% is allocated to the DAO, and the remaining 9% is held by the team.
Interesting. So they've kept a big chunk of tokens for themselves, the DAO and the team. Why is that?
Well, the company's holdings are probably for future stuff. Development, marketing, expanding the Onyx Protocol. The DAO's allocation makes sure the community has a say in how the protocol is governed. And the team's holdings are an incentive for them to keep working on the project and to make sure their interests align with the success of XCN.
So they're trying to find a balance between having enough tokens for trading while also keeping some for development and future plans, right?
Exactly. And that's a good thing. It shows they're in it for the long haul, not just trying to pump up the price quickly. They're building an ecosystem, not just a speculative asset.
Makes sense. But we can't forget that crypto is still risky, right?
Absolutely. And those risks are even bigger for something like XCN, which is still new and has a relatively low market cap.
Yeah, we saw how much XCN can swing. A 98% drop and then a 144% surge in just one day. That's pretty wild.
It's definitely not for everyone, but volatility can go both ways. It can mean big losses, but also big gains.
True. It's all about timing, managing risk, and like you said, doing your research.
Exactly. And speaking of research, I think we should look closer at the Onyx DAO and how it actually works. This is where that governance token part of XCN really comes into play.
Right. We haven't talked about the details of the DAO yet. What's so interesting about it?
Well, as we mentioned, XCN holders get to vote in the Onyx DAO. They have a say in how the protocol is run. They vote on things like upgrades, new features, fees, even how the funds in the DAO treasury are used.
Wow, so it's not just a symbolic vote, it actually affects the Onyx Protocol.
Exactly, and that's what's so exciting about it. It's a truly decentralized system. The community decides how it evolves.
I bet that would appeal to a lot of investors, especially those who believe in decentralization and community-driven projects.
Absolutely. And it's not just about ideals, it's about practical benefits too. A well-governed protocol is more likely to be stable, secure, and responsive to its users.
Like a good government that actually listens to its people and does what's best for them.
Exactly. And a well-governed protocol will attract more users, developers, investors, which benefits everyone in the end.
So the DAO adds another layer to Onyxcoin. It's not just about speculation or utility, it's about being part of a system that can shape the future of the Onyx Protocol.
Exactly. And that's what sets XCN apart from a lot of other cryptos. It's not just a financial tool, it's about empowerment and community.
I love that. It's about more than just money, it's about building a better financial future. But let's not get too carried away. We still need to talk about the practicalities of investing in XCN and the risks.
You're right, and one of the biggest risks, as we mentioned before, is regulation.
Right. The rules around crypto are still unclear, and that can be scary for investors. What are some specific regulatory challenges that Onyxcoin might face?
Well, one thing is how governments might classify XCN. Is it a security, a commodity, something else entirely? That could have a big impact on how it's traded, taxed, and regulated.
So it's not just about the technology, it's about navigating the legal and political world too.
Exactly, and that's why it's important for investors to stay informed about regulations and understand how they could affect their XCN holdings.
Okay, so regulatory uncertainty is a risk factor to keep in mind. What about competition? Are there other projects doing similar things as Onyxcoin? And how does XCN compare to them?
That's a great question and something any smart investor should be asking. Yes, there are other DeFi projects using NFTs as collateral and building decentralized governance systems.
So Onyxcoin isn't the only one, it's a competitive space. What makes XCN different? What makes it stand out?
One key difference is how the Onyx Protocol is designed and how it works. It's built on Ethereum, which means it's secure and can work with other DeFi protocols.
Right, so it's using the strengths of Ethereum. That's a big plus. What else?
Another thing is the team behind Onyxcoin. They have a lot of experience in blockchain and finance, and they've put together a strong team of developers, advisors, and investors.
So it's not just some anonymous group, it's people with real credentials. That adds a lot of credibility and trust.
Absolutely. That's really important in crypto where there are, unfortunately, a lot of scams.
Okay, so a strong team, a secure platform, and a unique approach to NFTs as collateral. Sounds like Onyxcoin has a lot going for it, but there are also risks and challenges.
Of course, crypto is constantly changing, and things can happen that we can't predict. New technologies, regulatory changes, more competition.
So it's not a sure thing. It's an investment that needs careful thought and ongoing research.
Exactly. And before investing, it's crucial to understand your own risk tolerance, your financial goals, and how the crypto market works.
Great advice. I think that brings us to a good point to move on. We've covered the basics of Onyxcoin, the tokenomics, the DAO, the risks, the competition. Now, let's talk about what the future might hold for this project.
Let's do it. I'm excited to explore what the future might bring for Onyxcoin and how it fits into the bigger picture of decentralized finance.
Me too. I'm sure our listeners are as well. So stay tuned as we continue our deep dive into Onyxcoin and explore its potential impact on the future of finance. Welcome back. I feel like I could write a book on Onyxcoin now.
You're getting the hang of it. But as we think about the future of XCN, it's good to remember that even experts are just making educated guesses, not predicting the future.
True. No crystal ball for crypto, that's for sure. But based on everything we've learned, what do you think is the most exciting potential for Onyxcoin down the line?
It's amazing how this project is already making us ask big questions about the future of finance,
It's like Onyxcoin is forcing us to face how quickly money and value are changing in the digital world.
Exactly. And that's why it's worth paying attention to, even if you're not ready to invest yet. These changes in DeFi are challenging the old ways of doing things, giving people more control.
It's like the Wild West, but for finance. Lots of unknowns, but huge potential for those who are brave enough.
I like that analogy. And Onyxcoin, with all its unique features and its vision, is right there on the frontier.
So let's pretend we can see into the future for a minute. What are some things that could help or hurt XCN's growth?
Well, one big thing is how much people actually use DeFi. If it keeps growing like people think it will, that will probably help XCN too.
So XCN's success isn't just about XCN, it's about the whole DeFi movement.
Right. It's like investing in a company that makes electric cars. Their success depends on how many people switch to electric vehicles overall.
Got it. But what about XCN itself? What are some specific things we should be watching for?
Keep an eye on their roadmap. See if the team is doing what they said they would. Are they hitting their goals, making partnerships, getting new users on the platform? Those are all good signs that the ecosystem is healthy and growing, which is good for XCN.
Like checking in on a startup, making sure they're making progress.
Exactly. And speaking of growth, there's also the token release schedule to think about. Remember those monthly releases of XCN starting in April 2025?
The slow drip, right. It's supposed to keep the price stable, but could it affect the price in other ways?
It could. More tokens in circulation could push the price down if demand doesn't go up too.
So it's a balancing act, too many tokens and the price drops too few, and people might not use it.
Exactly. It'll be interesting to see how they manage this and how those releases affect the market.
Okay, so we've got DeFi adoption, internal developments, token releases. What about competition and regulations?
Competition is always a factor in crypto. New projects are popping up all the time. Some might try to do the same things as Onyxcoin, or even better.
It's like the early days of the internet. Everyone's trying to be the best.
Exactly. So Onyxcoin needs to keep innovating to stay ahead.
And what about those regulations? Could governments step in and slow down the whole DeFi thing?
It's definitely possible. Governments are still figuring out how to deal with crypto. They might make rules that hurt DeFi or even make some parts of it illegal.
So regulations are a big unknown that could have a huge impact on XCN, good or bad.
Exactly. It's something we need to keep watching.
Okay, all this talk about the future is making my head spin. So many possibilities. But let's take a step back for a second. For our listener who's been listening to all this, what's the one key thing they should be thinking about today regarding Onyxcoin?
I think the most important thing to remember is that Onyx Coin is more than just a token. It's about betting on a different kind of financial future. A future that's more decentralized, more transparent, and gives individuals more power.
It's like picking a side in a revolution. Will traditional finance change or will DeFi take over?
That's the question.
Yeah.
And Onyx Coin is right at the center of it.
Wow, that's a big question. But before we finish this deep dive, I want to make sure our listener knows what to do next. If they're interested in Onyx Coin, what should they do?
First, do your own research. Don't just take our word for it. Look at the sources we talked about, check out the Onyx Protocol website, read reviews, and form your own opinion.
Don't just jump in blindly. Do your homework.
Exactly. And if you're still interested, think about how you might get some XCN. We talked about exchanges, but there are also those learn-to-earn programs. They're a low-risk way to get started.
Learn and earn at the same time, like a free trial for Onyx Coin.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. In the end, the decision to invest in XCN is up to you. There's no right or wrong answer.
It all depends on your financial goals, how much risk you're comfortable with, and whether you believe in the potential of decentralized finance.
Exactly. So we'll leave you with one last thought. In a world where technology is changing everything so quickly, what role do you want to play in shaping the future of finance?
That's a great question. It's bigger than just Onyx Coin. It's about where we all fit into this new world.
Exactly. And with that, we'll wrap up our deep dive into Onyx Coin. We hope you learned something, and maybe even got a little inspired.
It's been an amazing journey, and as always, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking questions. Until next time, happy investing.